The way to Jerusalem from the south starts in Hebron, first mentioned in Genesis 13. Then Abram moved his tent and went and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built an altar there to the Lord. Later, Abraham purchased the area around the cave of Machpelah, where Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, and Leah are buried in the tomb of the patriarchs. I spoke to Gary Cooperberg, a longtime Hebron area resident, regarding the importance of this place, the second holiest city in Judaism.
If you want to go in the path of the Bible, if you want to come to Israel and see history as it continues and as it's related to the very beginnings, this is where you start. According to Jewish tradition, the grave of Adam and Eve are in underneath this building, in the cave of Machpelah. As a matter of fact, it was because of the fact that Adam and Eve are buried here that Abraham realized the sanctity of this location and bought the cave of Machpelah as a burial place for himself and his wife and his children. Ephron, the Hittite, he was the owner of the property, and he didn't want to sell it. He wanted to give it to Abraham. In fact, to make sure that Abraham wouldn't buy it from him, he came up with an exorbitant price. He figured Abraham wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. 400 silver shekels, which was an enormous amount of money. Abraham didn't bicker, he didn't argue, he didn't handle. He took out the money and handed it to him on the spot and bought the thing, right before his eyes, before the entire town leadership, and it was signed officially.
The ancient title deed is the Bible. So the field and the cave that is in it were deeded to Abraham by the sons of Heth as property for a burial place. Of course, the visibly prominent structure atop Machpelah is not quite as old as Abraham, but the building is still one of the oldest in the world in continuous use for 2,000 years.
King Herod was the one that erected the building, and if you look at the stones, you'll see that they're very similar to the stones of the Western Wall. As a matter of fact, King David established his kingdom in Hebron before he moved to Jerusalem. He ruled here for 7.5 years. It's always been a commandment for a Jew to live in the land. But obviously, when we did not have control here, and when our neighbors were not so amenable to us, it was not easy to do.
Though Jews always lived in Hebron, under Islamic rule they were barred from entering the tomb of the patriarchs and only allowed to pray at this corner of the external wall. Over the centuries, this spot was visited by some of the greatest rabbis in Judaism. Despite the anti-Jewish undercurrents, the community prospered. But in 1929, a bloody pogrom erupted and British mandatory authorities failed to properly protect the Jewish residents.
Actually, in 1929, there was a rumor that the Jews had desecrated the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And the Arabs whipped up a tremendous frenzy, and pogroms took place in Jerusalem, up in the north, and down here in Hebron as well.
67 Jews were massacred, dozens injured, with reports of rape, mutilations, children beheaded, and old rabbis castrated. On a more positive note, 28 Arab families hid Jews in their homes, saving many. It took British reinforcements 5 hours to arrive on the scene, too little, too late, and the British reaction was to forcibly evacuate the survivors, ostensibly for their own good. Jewish property was occupied by Arabs until after 1967. So we have here the map of the Kingdom of Israel, Mahmoud-Bethlehem, and right here the area that we're at today in Hebron.
This is the Avraham Avinu Synagogue. In 1492, when Columbus came to the New World, there were people who thought he was Jewish because that was the year of the Spanish Inquisition. And Jews had to find new homes. And many of them found Hebron in that year, in the same year. And they came here to this area and they built this synagogue. And the community grew around the synagogue. It was a Ladino community. They spoke Ladino, which is Spanish Yiddish. And this synagogue was destroyed by the Jordanians in 1948. We found the original blueprints, and we had photographs, and it was rebuilt.
Today, 600 Jews live in Hebron, amidst an Arab population of 120,000. Another 7,000 Jews live in the nearby community of Kiryat Arba. We head north on the road to Jerusalem, making a stop in Bethlehem, the hometown of King David and birthplace of Yeshua, Jesus. It's lunchtime, so we go straight to the El Karawan restaurant, owned and operated by Abu Zuz, who makes the best kebab in the Middle East. How do you say your name?
Abu Zuz.
Abu Zuz.
My son, Zuz.
Uh-huh.
The same name. Zuzu, my son Zuzu.
Is that like
Abu
the form
Zuz.
of Joseph?
Yes, Joseph.
It is Joseph.
Yes,
Yeah.
Joseph.
Very good. My father's name is Joseph.
Nice to meet you, father. Nice to meet you.
And my name is Barry, which means, you would say Baraka.
Baraka.
We order the mixed grill from Abu Zuz, which of course includes the famous kebab. Abu Zuz shows us his secret recipe, starting with a prime cut of lamb, which of course has to be chopped and re-chopped, with a sprinkling of salt, cumin, pepper, followed by more chopping. Then parsley, green pepper, garlic, onion.
Parsley and garlic and onion.
More chopping, mixing. Everything is done by hand.
Pine nuts.
These pine nuts are my favorite ingredient. Abu Zuz is a master. The skewer grilling produces a magnificent kebab with grilled onions and tomatoes. We are joined for this lamb feast by the pastor of Bethlehem's First Baptist Church, Dr. Naim Khoury. And you know what Isaiah 55 verse 1 says? Ho, everyone who thirsts, come ye to the waters, and you who have no money, come buy and eat. Kebab.
Fresh.
One for you.
Tender.
And one for me. And one for you.
Thank you.
Kebab. Lamb shishlik. Lamb chops. Lamb kebab. The 3 lambs from one. This is all that's left. A burnt sacrifice. After that delicious lunch, it's time for some touring. And of course, the main site in Bethlehem is the Church of the Nativity.
This is the oldest church in the Holy Land.
Built originally by Emperor Constantine's mother, Queen Helena, in the 4th century over the site of Yeshua's birthplace. Ever since, this has been one of the most important pilgrimage destinations for Christians.
The floor of the first church, the church of Queen Helena, mother of Constantine, the 4th century church. Emperor Justinian, he wanted to enlarge the church, and he raised the floor 60 centimeter to protect the first floor, and he added the narthex, that area, also to the church. He added another 2 columns. Luke chapter 2 spoke about the Virgin Mary and Saint Joseph. They came from Nazareth to here, to Bethlehem, after the order of Augustus Caesar for census. Everyone should come to his own town to registrate for the census. When they came, the house in Bethlehem used to divide 2 parts. Lower part, until today, the lower part used for animal, upper part for the human. When they came here, they didn't find place on the upper room. They find place down where is the animals. That's why, explain, Jesus born in a stable. That's the birthplace for Jesus Christ. Why 14? Because 14 generations, from Abraham to David. From David, there's another 14 to exile. 14 from the exile to Jesus Christ. After the birth, she carried the baby and put him down here, in the manger. And on the left-hand side, you will see the altar of the 3 wise men, where they came and dismounted here and gifted Jesus Christ the gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
You know, in Bethlehem, there are 3 different times that Christmas is celebrated. Let's hear about it.
Yes, this is the only church that celebrates Christmas 3 times a year. In the 24th of December for the Catholic, 6th of January for the Greek Orthodox, and 18th for the Armenian. This is the Greek Orthodox part, and here the Armenian part.
Christians come to Bethlehem for Christmas from all over the world. Actually, the tourist trade dates back to the Byzantine period, when Christianization of the Roman Empire made it popular to visit the Holy Land. Monks, pilgrims, and scholars from Gaul to Greece flocked here. One of those who settled in Bethlehem for many years was St. Jerome, translator of the Bible from Hebrew and Greek into Latin. His work, the Vulgate, is still an important text of the Roman Catholic Church. Jerome is said to have worked here in a hermit cell under the Nativity Church.
He lived here, and also he died here. This is the tomb of St. Jerome.
Well, you've seen it all at the Church of Nativity at Manger Square. Come to Bethlehem.
Do you want to know more about Roots and Reflections? Or find out about our upcoming tours or the humanitarian work of Vision for Israel? Maybe you want to buy one of Barry and Batia's worship CDs or download a free copy of Batia's recipes seen in the series. Well, the best place for all this is our website, roots4u.tv. Here you can also sign up for our free Jerusalem on the Line newsletter. Online is also a great way to donate to this ministry, so go to roots4u.tv and start exploring today.
We're back with Pastor Naim Khoury at Bethlehem's First Baptist Church. Years of Intifada, the Palestinian uprising, have been very difficult for local Christians. What is the meaning of Bethlehem?
It's the house of bread. And yet there is not much bread for people to eat because of the bad economy.
Despite hardship, Pastor Khoury takes seriously the exhortation, preach the word, be ready in season and out of season. Christmas season presents the ideal time to share the gospel. The church, with outside help, rents one of the biggest banquet halls in Bethlehem and literally goes into the highways, and as many as are found are invited to a delicious Christmas meal accompanied by caroling with the church worship team and then the good news of salvation.
It's beautiful to see over 1,200 people showed up in that meeting before Christmas, 3 days in a banquet before Christmas. People from all over came, and that night, 300 souls, they gave their life to Jesus. It was a miracle. People crying. Even the owner of the place has tears in his eyes, saying, I never ever heard this before. Catholics, we have Greek Orthodox, we have Muslims, we have all different people came and attend that meeting. And the message was so powerful. The whole place was shaking. We felt that the Holy Spirit was shaking the whole place and shaking the hearts of people to know Jesus is the Christmas. Jesus, it's all about Christmas.
Well, after that tour of Bethlehem, let's go on and take a music break.
Today in Israel, 1 in 3 children live below the poverty line and simply cannot afford the basic necessities to go to school, such as pencils, books, and a school bag. The Pack to School project, run by the Joseph Storehouse, aims to address just that. Your gift today of $20 will provide one child with a school backpack. Or perhaps you can do more and provide multiple children with backpacks. Please call the number on the screen now or go online to roots4u.tv and give your best gift today.
Shalom, Chief. It's good to see you again. We're with the dog mayor of Mevaseret, and we're going to head out to the Biblical Zoo today and try and find out what's happening with the animals here in Israel. Nestled in the Judean hills south of Jerusalem, The biblical zoo is a popular site for all sorts of visitors. Many of its animals are mentioned in the Bible, and the concept is to provide animals with big open spaces without bars, offering the best feeling of a natural environment.
Let's say hello to the kids. All right, here's your chance. Shalom, 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 shalom.
I ran into Norman and Lola Cohen, a senior couple who have volunteered for years at the Biblical Zoo.
There's something very special about this zoo as well. It's a great mixing place because we have Jews and Arabs and ultra-Orthodox Jews and secular Jews, and everybody mixes together on the staff, amongst the visitors, and there's complete harmony. So for that reason alone, this is a very special place. And I like the fact that the keepers work so hard to keep the animals entertained. They just don't only feed them. Like the elephants have little sweetmeats hidden in the walls to give them something to do, to look for them, and the bears have things to play with, and the monkeys get pots of honey hidden and sticks to get the honey out like they would in the wild.
And the bears have iced lollies in the summer.
Yeah, so the keepers are always thinking of things to keep the animals busy and entertained, because boredom's the worst thing that can happen to a zoo animal.
Why is it called the Biblical Zoo?
Because in the Bible, wherever an animal or a bird is mentioned, we have most of them here, and the quotations are by each of them species to say the reference in the Bible.
Wow, it's the Spanish flamenco. I mean, it's the flamingo. Here at the Biblical Zoo, we see all sorts of flamingos. Orange, pink, white, and a lot of noise. I don't know what's happening in the bushes today, but there's a lot of noise down by Flamingo Beach. Let's go take a look.
The land of Israel is a geographical, climatic, botanical, and zoological bridge between Asia, Africa, and Europe, truly at the center of the world, where the various zones and species overlap. However, some of the animals mentioned in the Bible, which once lived here, have become locally extinct. At times, it's difficult to determine the actual animals referred to in Scripture.
What happens is part of it is just a matter of translation, because Hebrew had changed very much since biblical times. And sometimes there is an animal mentioned in the Bible in a certain name, and it's not the animal, we call it the same way. Or sometimes it's a matter of species, like if you deal with lions. You have lions in all pictures and drawings in Jerusalem. It's even the symbol of the city of Jerusalem. But it's not the African lion that we're used to know about, that we still have in Africa. The Asian lion is very different. It's very small. It's a different subspecies. So suddenly somebody comes up and said, okay, this is the subspecies that used to live in Israel. We're talking about extinction around the Crusaders' time, which means that since Crusaders' time, the lions are not here. So we have about 800 years to debate which is the real lion that lived here in Judah.
Now, some of you are wondering about when Adam named all the animals. Well, I kind of have this theory that Adam was looking at the lion and he goes, "What you doing lying around?" That's the lion. Let's sing them a song. In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. Ho, 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 a wee moetta, wee moetta, wee moetta, wee moetta, wee moetta, wee moetta, wee moetta.
What would a biblical zoo be without a Noah's Ark? And sure enough, Jerusalem has the Ark, which also provides us with the word of the week.
Okay, today we're going to learn 2 Hebrew words, asur la'ashen. Now, you notice this sign in Hebrew and English, and in Arabic, it says no smoking. Why do you think? Because the animals don't smoke. So if animals don't smoke, people shouldn't smoke.
Hi, my name is Liran, and the word of the week is a phrase, asur la'ashen. It's forbidden to smoke. So if you have been smoking, or if you're planning to, then don't, because it's really not healthy for you. And to tell you the truth, it stinks.
Well, look at what we have here. Asur la'ashen. You see, even on Noah's Ark, they weren't smoking. Smoking is prohibited in all areas of Noah's Ark. Asur la'ashen. Everybody, asur la'ashen. Oh, look at what we have here. Passengers who were on Noah's Ark. Sitting on the deck of the Ark, I've had time to ponder and think a lot about animals, especially as it's written about in the Bible. One of the greatest concerns we think about today is global warming and, of course, the extinction of all sorts of animals. Well, the Bible teaches us to respect animals, to take good care of them, for they are also part of God's creation. This is Tamar Raviv here at the Biblical Zoo. She actually talks to the animals. Tell me, Tamar, these are beautiful elephants.
What you can see here behind us is Gabi. He's our youngest elephant. He was born a year ago after an artificial insemination, which is a very difficult process. Well, the method that we use here is called the free contact method. It's the same method that they use in Thailand, which is where these elephants come from. And what we do is that via the free contact method, you can actually work with the elephants, and this is very important for their well-being. We take them for walks around the zoo, and they hold trunk to tail, which is really nice to see.
The Biblical Zoo is successfully involved in various projects designed to reintroduce locally extinct animals mentioned in the Bible back into the natural environment of Israel.
This is the Bible Land Reserve, and what we see over here are animals which were mentioned in the Bible, and animals that lived or still live in Israel. One of the animals is the fallow deer, which became totally extinct from this area over 100 years ago, and we have successfully managed to reintroduce it back into the wild. We have dozens of fallow deer which have been reintroduced back into the wild in 3 areas in Israel, and this has been a very big success. We hope that it will continue. Another of the animals that you'll be able to see here is the griffon vulture, which was also mentioned in the Bible. The name is Nesher, and we also introduced this animal back into the wild. There are dozens which are introduced every year, and they fly over Israel and cross the borders. We know that by tagging them, and that way we can monitor them.
Cuckoo! Cuckoo! I'm saying cuckoo. No birds there. Wow, look. Wow, it's raining in here. This is a real rainforest. Let's go talk to Polly. Polly, want a quacker? This is Tarzan Berry, covering for Roots and Reflections at the Tropical Birdhouse in the Rainforest in Jerusalem. Oh!
Perched in the hills between the Biblical Zoo and Bethlehem is the neighborhood of Gilo. This southernmost Jerusalem suburb was the target of Palestinian snipers and suicide bus bombers.
In 2002, during the Second Intifada, Palestinian sniper fire shot into the neighborhood of Gilo. As a result, concrete barriers were put up to block the gunfire, but they were gray, they were dull. One artist took it upon himself to paint biblical pictures reminding us of God's covenants once again with Israel. I'm amazed. One of the artist's pictures is of Mary, who we call Miriam in the Bible, with the angel Gabriel from the New Testament. At the zoo, we experience the wonderful and beautiful flamingos, but here in Gilo, we have the exciting, magnificent cranes.
Now that it's supper time, let's try some typical Israeli fast food here at the Pat Junction, one of South Jerusalem's busiest intersections.
Shawarma meat is actually layers of compressed turkey meat, which is pretty low calorie, but on top is a layer of lamb fat that drips down as this thing turns around and gives the wonderful juicy flavor. Hummus, yes. Spug. bite of a shawarma is, well, it's out of this world. Shevach has been here with shawarma and falafel since 1985. One thing I can tell you is this is healthy fast food. This is the takeout.
One of Jerusalem's newest attractions stands at the end of Hebron Road near the city's southern gate, the Menachem Begin Heritage Center, which includes a research institute, archives, and museum presenting the life, deeds, and legacy of Israel's sixth prime minister, the founder of the Likud party.
That it's not a traditional museum. The tourists won't come and see a picture on the wall or a certificate with a caption. It's a live experience. You meet Menachem Begin speaking. They see the story of the state of Israel through the life of Menachem Begin, which can be one of the symbols of the story of the Jewish people in the 20th century, from the Holocaust to redemption. He was born in Poland, came to Israel in 1943, fought for its independence, then became part of the political life, the head of the opposition for many years, and then became in 1977 the Prime Minister of Israel.
Here we have the Nobel Peace Prize medal that was awarded to Menachem Begin as Prime Minister of Israel, who made peace with Egypt. Coming out of the Begin Center, we're at the southern entrance of Jerusalem. And in 1979, an incredible discovery was made when 2 silver scrolls were found in catacombs underneath between St. Andrew's Church and where today is the Begin Museum. In those silver scrolls were contained the Aaronic blessing, which in Hebrew goes like this: Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha, Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yisem lecha shalom. Isn't it incredible to know that the most ancient biblical text was discovered to the southern entrance of Jerusalem?